Infinity. If you like your background with a little more sci-fi, but aren't looking for that grimdark or dystopian future, then Infinity by Corvus Belli might just be the one for you. The lore of Infinity is a fascinating one, as it builds from our very own world, which grounds it in a somewhat believable universe. It begins in the second half of our current century with the accidental discovery of a wormhole in space, whereupon NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Russian Cosmonautic Agency join together to explore it. They send a probe through the wormhole, which comes back with data showing a whole new planetary system. Armed with this information, the joint project decide to build a huge colony ship called the Ariadne in order to transport the first pioneers through the wormhole to the new system and to try and begin settlements. After the successful deployment of the Ariadne, a second much larger colony ship called the Aurora was planned to follow up, bringing support. However, during its travel, the wormhole collapsed, ensuring the Aurora was lost and the people aboard the Ariadne were left alone. Back on Earth, the loss of the Ariadne and the Aurora had a hugely devastating financial impact on the countries that had funded this project. They'd ploughed vast resources into this project, and the failure rocked their economies. With this, their political stabilities began to collapse, and the fall of North America as a dominant power gave way to other world powers to step up. This would come in the form of an unlikely alliance between Australia, New Zealand, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Malaysia, who would form together to try and combat the growth of huge Chinese corporations. The success of this made them able to compete on an equal footing with North America prior to its collapse. South American countries also began to rise up, and both Brazil and Chile joined this alliance, which would come to be known as Pan-Oceania. Now, Pan-Oceania became the driving force in creating an artificial intelligence known as Aleph. They felt this AI would be hugely convenient in all aspects of life, and they would gradually give it more and more responsibility until it effectively became omnipresent. Alongside this, their huge investments into the space race and investigating wormholes would lead them to be the first power to reach the stars and begin colonizing other planets. Now, Pan-Oceania didn't have it all their own way. Yuqing were also a force of power. The Chinese had seen an invasion in a different way, the invasion of Western culture and consumerism into their typically traditional countryside, which meant once very poor farmers were beginning to become wealthy. This meant they saw no other option than for China to reinvent itself to protect its traditional values. Religions became law, and expansion over neighbouring countries like Vietnam, Mongolia, Thailand, North Korea and Burma, to name but a few, increased China's power. The fall of the USA as a power unstabilised other countries which had invested into them, so places like South Korea and Japan could not stand this economical loss. Therefore, they invested their futures into China. Now, the proud Japanese people did not like this idea of becoming part of China, and to quell any uprising, the name Yuqing, meaning Jade Palace, was adopted for this new nation. Also during this time over in the Middle East, we see the rise of Haqqislam, which literally means New Islam. This is a move away from its old beliefs and focuses more on humanism and a search for philosophical knowledge. They are seekers of peace, and over time the Middle East becomes partially united under the Haqqislam philosophy. They aren't a nation like the superpowers of Pano and Yuqing, but they are a collection of countries who share a belief system. Backed by incredibly wealthy donors, the Haqqislam look to the stars to find a place they can call their own, and with this they become their own nation. At this point we are about 170 years into the future, and we have a number of nations who've reached the stars, each with their own laws and beliefs, and with no official governance. It's here that the O12 are born. Think of them like the United Nations, but with way more power. They establish lawful trade and keep the peace. Well, in theory. At this point we discover that the original colony ship, the Ariadne, had survived, and it's established a home planet on Dawn. This then becomes a hot point of contention, as Dawn is a planet rich in materials, and the USA, along with its European and Russian partners, claim that as they send out the original colony ship, they have the ownership of this planet. Then of course the superpowers who bought up the debts of these countries believe that they now own this planet and its riches through debts owed. And unsurprisingly, the Ariadnans, who've lived here for quite some time now, see it more that they were left to die, considered lost, and that the planet is in fact theirs. O12 step in and declare that Dawn is the home planet of Ariadne, and that they are the owners of these highly sought after resources. The people of Ariadne have had over 100 years of living on this planet and have gone through some changes. Let's just say there's werewolves on this planet now, and I'll leave it for you to look into. However, their knowledge and weapons have not kept up with advances back on Earth. They do, though, have the resources that everyone wants. I could go on forever with this background and about the rise of Aleph, the AI, the Nomad Nation, these are the people who reject the rise of Aleph's power, for example, and so much more. But suffice to say, the background is rich, full of political dealings and aggressive power struggles. There are lots of places to find out more about this background, but one of the best places to start is with the brand new N4 Infinity Core Book. This is sold alongside the rulebook and has all of the background for the different factions in a beautiful full colour source book. There's also a couple of graphic novels now too, called Outrage and Betrayal, and Corvus Belli have just announced some upcoming novels in partnership with Winged Hussar Publishing, so there's plenty to feast your eyes upon in one of the most underrated miniature gaming worlds out there.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge in support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.